today, in this special Brand Week episode, we are with Jean-Paul Edwards, who is the Chief Product Development Officer for OMD EMEA from our network from London. Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. So, yes, I think let's start with the popular question, which is the new normal, the so-called new normal, and its impact on brands and media, technology, product development. What do you think about that? Is it like, do we have the new normal, or is it some kind of accelerator that we are seeing things that we were to see in 10 years and now we're seeing it in a couple of years?
Yeah, so I think we of course all appreciate that we've all been through a massive global shock, something like a kind of a global earthquake that's hit us incredibly fast, was universal, and essentially we have a strong sense that a lot of the change here is quite permanent. It's not like some kind of storm that passes and we weather it. I'm not sure whether we can say we're in any kind of new normal yet. I prefer to think of it as being a period of extended weirdness, that we've got used to this strange situation, so it feels normal, but things will go back to a more normal state, but there will be some significant permanent changes in behavior, and that's essentially the multi-trillion-dollar question: is understanding what's changed recently that's very obvious to us all, what will remain a permanent change, and what will revert back to something that was akin to where we were previously. And we've been investing a lot in terms of understanding those things and understanding it empirically, not just what we gut feel, actually tracking multiple kind of global signals. So we have a thing called the Fast Start dashboard, which is very much designed to track signals from global markets, search behaviors, media behaviors, attitudinal behaviors, where people are going, a huge array of things that allows us to start to model with some degree of confidence, what changes we think have some kind of permanence to them, and what things we think will revert back to something like the old normal. I think a good example is in the travel sector. So it's very obvious to us all that we're not traveling internationally, hardly at all. There's been something of a boom in domestic travel around the world, and people are all discovering our own countries to a far greater degree, because that's where we feel comfortable traveling. So travel bookings and travel searches are way down, but actually the consumption of travel content has gone up a little bit. We're all fantasizing about that holiday of a lifetime, the holidays we missed this year, we may spend more on next year. So we can definitely forecast some kind of boom and some kind of shift to putting more exotic holidays and further afield, because we're all realizing how short life is. So that's, I think, is something that it will be it's a shift back to the normal. Travel will revert back, but there'll be something of a boom to account for the huge lull. It's just a huge challenge for the brands to survive the current crisis.
So is it like, I mean, yes, we're watching influencers more and more every day, because we're seeing I have a couple of influencers on YouTube. I mean, they're like just sailing in Bahamas or other parts of the world. And I think, as you said, it's more fun to watch them and inspirational compared to the pre-COVID era, I guess.
Yes, very, very much so. We are all living vicariously. We're living kind of through others. We did an interesting campaign for a client of ours called Tourism Ireland, so the tourist board for the island of Ireland. And they've done a bunch of influencer campaigns and sending influence to Ireland, but of course they can't travel. So they've done an interesting tactic, essentially. It's getting the big kind of global influencers from around the world, but matching them up with a local influencer who maybe has a far smaller footprint. So a big French travel influencer might be connected up to a photographer in the west coast of Ireland, and he's going out and photographing and creating new content for this French influencer. So there's these new kinds of connections that are being made now.
So how about the restaurants, the cafes, and it's like the dark stores that they are delivering to our homes? And especially in Western Europe and in the US, I think this is a significant trend. And how do you see the future of that business and informal eating out? Or, I mean,
yes. So yeah, there's a really key piece here in terms of this idea that so as I mentioned previously, we spoke about previously that innovation is coming from the back end of crises. That it's in a crisis, and as we're trying to grow in the period of recovery after crisis, that we start to see the most significant innovations. It's actually because in the good times, when you're innovating, you're kind of playing at it. You're giving it a try. It's the sexy new thing. It's the bright, shiny new object. We don't take it anywhere as seriously. But in these crisis times, the innovation is a necessity. There's an English expression: necessity is the mother of invention. So we have to do this innovation to survive, and that exists across all sorts of different areas. And so there's these huge pressures on the high street. So whether that be restaurants or stores, they can't open. In the UK, we entered a lockdown this week, and so the stores are shut, and that's real estate that costs money but is making no money. So the wisest brands are prepared for this, and they are taking it to this kind of dark store mode. They are working with there's been a bunch of new suppliers who are matching up people who are looking for work to do the mopeds to deliver things, or in vans and things. So all these different supply chains are being created overnight, in a sense. Although we started out in the period in the springtime, and then those that have been expecting a second wave and a difficult winter have been preparing for this. And so I think we'll see more of this kind of thing. As you say earlier on, this innovation, or the crisis, is very much acting as accelerator. These things would have probably happened anyway, but slowly over the next 5 years, as people kind of play with it and bump into more optimal solutions. But because we have this period of necessity, the innovations and the getting to that optimal solution will happen a lot more quickly. And so we can definitely see that happening. It's happening in a number of different areas over the past few months in different markets, and we expect to see more of those things happening through the winter time in the Northern Hemisphere. A good example actually is lots of wholesalers who were supplying restaurants and stores. Their businesses dried up, so they never sold to people like you or I directly, but they had to move to a direct-to-consumer model. And so many of them were, really kind of basics in the first few days, but then in the next few weeks they're building e-commerce sites and can take a credit card order. Personally, we've started buying big deliveries from an Italian wholesaler near us. They delivered some food this week. It was delivered in an enormous lorry. It couldn't fit down our street because that lorry is normally used to travelling to big warehouses and these kind of things, but it's now delivering to stores in South London. So yeah, there's an awful lot of innovation happening there, and the supply chains, now they're set up, they'll be with us permanently, and so suddenly there'll be a busy, more vibrant marketplace as and when the crisis abates.
The critical thing is, you were mentioning the word necessity. So are you expecting a behavioral change? Well,
we're definitely looking out for those behavioural changes, and a key part of the services we're offering to our clients is the idea to expand out and brainstorm and think about what those behavioural changes might be, and then we go look for them. And then likewise with these data points, these global data sets we're accessing to see, are we seeing signs of that behaviour change, and then also are we seeing signs of that behaviour change reverting, as we've seen a period in many markets of initial crisis that it fell away. Now it's coming back, and for the second, and in some markets for the third time. So you can start to see if it correlates directly with, say, cases. When the cases go away, probably the behaviour will go back to normal. But in many cases, as the cases have gone down, they may come down a little bit, but not a huge amount. So e-commerce is a classic example. There were many people who never really liked e-commerce, who didn't see the need. They liked going to shops. When they couldn't go to shops, they had to take the leap and put their credit card into their computer or into their phone. Once they've done that once, it's not too bad. My mother, she's just like that. She never liked e-commerce. She had to do it, and now I can't stop her shopping on the internet. So we can definitely see those new audiences. So there's that supply side, so the demand side of things, the changing consumer behaviour, and then the supply side is the necessity coming from those new suppliers, say the wholesalers in food, or the new providers in video. They're building up their supply chains very quickly to meet that demand. And now that they're there, the investment's been made. They'll be looking to leverage that investment as things get a little easier through next year.
I mean, what do you think, in your opinion, that a marketing director or marketing manager should be doing in these days, especially when it comes to the new normal?
In terms of the innovations that CMOs should be focusing on, is very much dependent on the sector that they're in, where normally everyone's got the same kind of situation. They're looking for growth and trying to kind of generate marginal improvements over last year. There's been a huge diversion in paths for different kinds of sectors. So, for some of our clients, actually they've got too much demand. People are looking for cleaning products. They're flying off the shelves. But actually, there's some interesting challenges there in terms of how do you cement that brand in people's minds and be more front of mind. There's a huge opportunity for saliency and these kind of things, or how are you changing your supply chains. Whereas other brands, we call those brands the kind of the reluctant winners of the crisis. Some are a little bit down, and some are literally in a hibernation mode, and so they'll be looking to kind of restart at some point. So the short-term requirements differ hugely between brands, but the medium-term requirements and ambitions will be quite similar for everyone, in the sense of there'll be a difficult economic environment once things are, we have the opportunity that most people are going back to work, they're traveling again, they're moving around, but we definitely see signs that people's mindset has changed. They're more focused on their health. They're more focused, especially on their mental health. Everyone's more aware of these things. We've had a lot more quiet time. A lot of those issues that problems, you're just too busy to deal with them. You go off and go to a restaurant or go to work or go on a business trip. When we're all stuck at home, we're reflecting on those kind of things. We're a lot more focused on our homes. There's a lot of search data relating to a lot of focus on home environments. I was noticing a statistic about in New York, for example, many apartments in New York don't have cooking equipment. People just eat out all the time, and so they may have a small fridge, but no cooking equipment. Of course, they need to cook at home now because they can't go to restaurants, so those things are going up. So there's a whole lot of need states that are changing. But when it comes to the kind of decisions that a brand should be making, there's definitely a piece in terms of understanding those new routes to market. So that can be, as we said earlier, in terms of those new supply chains. So maybe if you're a CPG brand, actually those wholesalers are now selling direct to consumer. They're now a more valuable marketplace, and actually supporting distribution and logistics is an interesting aspect. And very much having an e-commerce, a direct to consumer strategy is now a necessity. Even if that strategy is say we're not going to do it, you need to make a purposeful decision to not do it, and understand the price and the impact of, but what if my competitors are doing that? It may be that you decide it's still not an investment you want to make, but it's a question that everyone needs to answer now. It's definitely not a question that you can ignore and say, we'll worry about that in 5 years' time. We'll worry about that when the marketplace has matured. The marketplace is maturing now, and those opportunities are coming out now, and the winners are being kind of forged now. That might not be apparent for a couple of years, but we definitely need to ask those questions. As I say, the specifics differ hugely by sector.
And on behalf of my colleagues and my friends in Turkey, I'd like to thank you for your thoughts and for sharing them with us.
My pleasure. So yes, have a great week, everyone, and have a good and safe winter period. And I hope to come to Turkey sometime next year.
Yeah, next year hopefully we'd like to have you in person in Turkey, maybe for Brand Week.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.